All right, so I'm going to show you now settings. So I'm in my Zoom profile. I have gone to vbschools.zoom.us to sign in. Always make sure you go there, sign in with SSO, and I'm going to go here now to settings. All right, so let's go down. We're going to talk about pretty much all of these things. If it's set like this, you can turn this setting on and off. That setting for the waiting room is now off. Now it's on. Some of these settings, like this one for require new settings, it's grayed out. You can't make any changes to that, and it is locked by the administrator. All right, so for waiting room, for classroom instruction, you definitely want that on. If there's some way that you're controlling a little bit better access for adults, you can consider turning that off, but our recommendation is for classroom instruction, leave the waiting room on. For waiting room options, there are a couple of things that you might want to consider here. You can set who should go to the waiting room. We recommend that everyone goes to the waiting room. And then you can also customize your waiting room. You can add a logo here. It will show your meeting topic. You can customize what this says here. Please wait, I'll be with you soon, or something like that. So you can make a change there. And you can also add a waiting room description down here. In the Zoom app on the Chromebooks, these things will show up. All right, the next couple are grayed out. I'm not even going to talk about those. I do recommend that you embed the passcode in the invite link for one-click join. It makes it so much easier for students to get in by clicking the link that you're going to post in your Schoology classroom. Next one is locked out. Only authenticated users can join the meetings. Should be turned on by default. If you're an administrator or a teacher and you're scheduling like an IEP meeting or something, you may want to turn this off for those, just so that it makes it easier for parents or people outside of our district to get into our meeting. Again, this next one down here, only authenticated users can join meetings from web. If for all of our student instruction, you want that turned on. If it's, again, an outside meeting and you're pulling in some outside hosts or whatever, maybe you have a guest speaker, you might want to turn that off. But you definitely want that on for classroom instruction. The next two here for host video and participant video, that means that these will automatically be on. We definitely don't want host video on for students. Give them the choice when they turn their video on and when they turn their video off. You know, they might be still in the process of getting up or getting to their learning space or whatever at home. So we don't want to turn that video on without asking them. So leave that off. For your host video, that one's your call. If you decide you want to turn that on from the start, you can set that there. The audio type, leave that as telephone and computer. Join before host, you definitely want that turned off for classroom instruction. If you have a faculty meeting or you're just meeting an individual or something, then it's probably okay to enable that. But keep in mind that these settings will be pulled in for every meeting that you do when you start the meeting. So if you make a change here and then start your classroom meeting, these settings will be pulled in. Enable personal meeting ID, you can leave that on. These next couple, you can, we've defaulted these to off. That's kind of our recommended setting for those. Mute participants upon entry, definitely for classroom instruction, you want to do that. That way you don't end up with a lot of chatter when students come into the room, and give them, again, the choice when to turn their mics on and off. Upcoming meeting reminders, if you've got the Zoom app running on your desktop, you will get a meeting notification if you've scheduled a time. We've recommended that you set up your meetings as no fixed time, so you won't get a meeting notification there. All right, in meeting basic, so our basic settings here. Require encryption, doesn't really matter. You can leave that one turned off. Chat, you probably want to turn that on so that you can have a chat in your classroom. Private chat in your instructional classroom, Until you get to know your students, you probably want to turn this off. There's no real way to monitor what students are saying to each other. So if you don't want to pass the notes in class, leave that one turned off. If you're having a faculty meeting or setting this up for something like that, then private chat is definitely okay for those things. Allow saving chats. Auto-saving chats, so this would be so that the host don't need to save the chat. I know a lot of teachers are using the chat for taking roll. Hey, everybody say hi in the chat, and then at the end they can pull the save the chat log. So that one's your call on that. The sound notification when someone joins or leaves, you might want to turn that on. Set it for host and co-host only, so that you know when somebody has joined your waiting room. Otherwise, you don't necessarily know, but you definitely don't want it so that everybody in your classroom knows when somebody joins or leaves. If somebody has kind of a flaky Wi-Fi connection on their Chromebook, they'll join, they'll leave, they'll join, they'll leave, and you don't want the ding-dong sound every time they do that. File transfer, leave that off. It just is a security setting. We've disabled feedback to Zoom and the end of the meeting survey. We don't want our kids to have to get all of those things. Co-hosts, you definitely want on. Polling allows you to conduct polls in your classroom. We recommend leaving that one on. Always show the meeting toolbar. This is a personal call. This shows like the sharing and the chat and the the participants list and stuff like that all the time when you're in a meeting. Teachers teaching from just a laptop have limited space on your screen, so you may want to just set that so it auto hides. It will show up again if you mouse down to where it should be. It'll pop back up. So that one's your call whether you want to always show those or not. Show Zoom windows during screen share. We recommend you turn that one off. Otherwise, everybody will see your chat and your participants list, any of those windows you have set up. All right, screen sharing. This one you can actually change from inside a meeting. We recommend that you start with host only on this. That way students can't just share stuff to your screen and then you end up with something inappropriate. So we recommend that you leave this set for host only. If you do change it to all participants, definitely leave the second one to host only there also. So you can make your choice, especially once you start to get to know your students a little bit better. Disables desktop screen share. I'm going to turn that one off. This allows you to share the entire screen, not just an application. Sometimes that's useful. Annotation. This allows when you're sharing your screen, if people can make annotations on your screen. There are definitely times in classroom instruction that would be important. And this is one of those settings that you can only change from outside of a meeting. So if you're in a meeting and decide you need to change this, you have to exit the meeting and then join it and then start it again. But this has some potential for students to be inappropriate if you're sharing your screen. So two things. You can either turn this off here, or you can turn it on and then check this bottom one. Only the host who is sharing, only the user who is sharing can annotate and save that. So that way, in conjunction with this one above it, who can share, the host only, you're the host, and then only you, since you're the host and you're the only one that can share, can annotate. So you can consider those settings. Whiteboard is an option when you do a share screen. You can have a whiteboard and you can allow who has annotation controls over that also by using the annotation setting above that. Remote control should be off for classroom instruction. Nonverbal feedback should be on. Meeting reactions on. Allowed remove participants to join. If you've got a kid that's being disruptive in your class, you can kick them out. And if this is turned off, they won't be able to get back in, period. So we recommend leaving this on, especially in conjunction with the waiting room. Once they're kicked and you remove them from the room, they're going to end up in the waiting room, and then you can handle them from there, so they won't be able to get back in and cause disruptions to your class at that point. Allow participants to rename themselves for classroom instruction. We really recommend that you leave this off. Hide participant profiles. You can make a choice on this. I don't believe students can. I'm not certain if students can change their profile pictures, but if you're finding that students have changed them and they are inappropriate, certainly address that with the students, but to avoid any issues there, you can always set this to hide. So if this is turned off, then you'll see participant names when their video is muted rather than seeing their image that they've got set in Zoom. So that one's your call. Report participants to Zoom. We shouldn't have a problem with this since they're all our students, but if you are allowing people in from outside, check that. That way, if they misbehave in your class, you can report them to Zoom. Breakout rooms, definitely turn that on. You can also check or not check the allow host to assign participants to breakout rooms when scheduling. That's your call. If you know who's going to be in there, great. Remote support and breakout rooms are mutually exclusive. You can only have one of these turned on, and there is another remote support link up in the top that has to be turned on in order to enable remote support also. So for classroom instruction, you don't want that because breakout rooms are going to be important for that. Closed captioning, those are your calls. I think you have to either have a third-party plugin in order to do closed captioning well in Zoom, or you have to type it in as you go. If you've got a co-host that can take care of that for you, great, use that. If you've got a third-party application installed, great, go ahead and enable that. Save your captions if you've got that third-party app. Take a look at what the settings are for that beyond what we're talking about today. Virtual backgrounds, I don't think you have to really worry about this. The virtual backgrounds they're not going to work on a Chromebook because they're not powerful enough. As a matter of fact, they don't work on our current models of teacher computers either. They do work on my new computer. They do work on an iPad or an iPhone or a modern Android device. So you can make a call for that. Video filters are like Snapchat filters where you can put hats and glasses and stuff like that on. That may be a little distracting, but you can make a classroom decision on those things. Sometimes it might be good to have. Identify guests, that one's your call. Auto answer in group chat. I would recommend that students send you a private message, answer them privately. If you can always change that in your chat when you go to respond to it, you just have to switch it to all users. These next two settings allow users to select stereo and original sound. These are important for our audio-based classes like music classes and stuff like that. But be aware that if you turn these on, it does increase the bandwidth requirements for your meetings. So students on Chromebooks, particularly if they have older model Chromebooks, it might overwhelm the bandwidth limitations on their devices. We have turned off this show join from your browser link. We had previously recommended that you do that. We are not recommending that anymore. We're pushing the Zoom app on Chromebooks because it takes precedence. So if the Zoom app is installed, it'll automatically launch on the Chromebooks. If you are setting up an outside meeting and you need this turned on, you would need to contact the DOT administrator for this and discuss that with them. Allow live stream meetings allows you to give out a URL for your meeting that live streams it. Request permission to unmute. So in this setting, if you're in your classroom and students have their mics muted, if you have this turned on, you can say, send a request and unmute Johnny, and Johnny has the choice whether to say, yes, okay, I'll unmute, or no, I'm not. Once they say unmute the first time, after that, you can turn their mic on and off for this session. Next time when you start class tomorrow, you would ask, and Johnny would have to approve that again. So that one is your call. Email notifications, we have all of these turned on by default. You can take a read through these and see what they are if they interest you. If you've got the Zoom app running, you'll get some notifications, and you will get some notifications by email, like when your recordings are ready and stuff like that. Under the other, I don't think there's really anything other than the schedule privileges down here that you can allow someone else. For administrators, this might be important, or maybe for co-teaching classrooms, it might be important that you can assign someone to schedule a meeting for you. So, and then down here at the bottom, this integration authentication, if you have third-party applications turned on in the Zoom meeting place, if you click regenerate, you'll have to re-authenticate in those applications, so keep that in mind. All right, those are the basic settings. I got 2 more tabs up here, so I'm going to scroll all the way back up to the top. The next tab is recording. We are asking teachers to record synchronous instruction so that if students miss, they can still get that information. So settings over here, we've set the default to not allow local recordings. Teacher laptops have very, very limited storage space, and you're going to find that if you're recording locally on your computer, you're going to end up with running out of space on your computer. So we've turned that off because Zoom now for us has cloud recording. So definitely turn on, make sure cloud recording is turned on. Record the active speaker allows that even when you're presenting, if Johnny unmutes himself and says something, that'll get recorded into your recording. And that's important because, otherwise when we post that in our classroom, students would hear your answer, but they wouldn't hear Johnny's question. So it's important to record audio. We don't have a problem recording audio for our students in this fashion because we're only sharing our recordings with students in our class. So students in the class can hear it, so students in the virtual class can hear it. It's okay. We recommend that you turn off the gallery view with shared screen. Otherwise, any kids that have their video still turned on get recorded along with that. So turn that off so that you're only recording your content. And then whatever we've got set as the defaults here are probably good options. You can set to record an audio transcript. It will kind of do closed caption type audio recordings, so you can play with that and see what you think there. Automatic recordings, again, we recommend that you have that turned off. We don't want to automatically start recording as soon as kids pop into the classroom. Remember, we want to give them a notice. Okay, guys, I'm going to start recording now. If you don't want to be on the video, please make sure that you mute your camera and then go ahead and start recording. IP address control, leave that off. Only authenticated users can view cloud recordings. Yes, leave that one on. Require a passcode. We want to make it easy for kids to get in. If you require a passcode, then you have to post a passcode with each recording, and it's different for each recording. We really recommend that you leave that off. Auto-delete cloud recordings after date. VBCPS policy is that recordings are made available for 14 days after the class. So you can actually change this if you wanted to set this to 14 so that your recordings automatically will be deleted after 14 days. Host can delete cloud recordings. Yes, that one is turned on. You can't change that. Recording disclaimer and multiple audio notifications. You may get some further guidance from the legal department on this, but for right now, I've got these turned off. All right, last set of settings, and this is on telephone. There's not a whole lot of things here you can change. I recommend that you leave this top one turned on. Third-party audio, probably leave that one turned off. But I do recommend that you change this one, which is mask phone number and participant list, to turn that one on. That way, if somebody's dialed in, everybody in your group doesn't get their phone number. So that's it. Your settings are saved as you go, and keep in mind that I've changed these settings, but if I go back here to meeting and I start this meeting now, it's going to pull in these settings unless I've overridden them in the meeting settings specifically. And if I need to make a change, most of the settings you'll have to exit your meeting, come back in, change the settings, start the meeting again. All right, so those are our recommended settings as of September 14th, 2020 for settings in Zoom.